Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 30. Can you believe it's episode 30
That's
of
insane.
Eat, Drink, Write, and Urban Fantasy Whiteboard? Obviously, we are separated again. And I think it may be that way for a while. I had court last week, so I could have been exposed up at the courthouse. And she's going to be going back to school.
Yeah,
So we're afraid of infecting each other. So we're back long distance again for the time being. We'll see how it goes and what the cases do. But so excuse our long distance recording. It makes it more difficult. Plus, I'm outside today because I've been working and I was in court all week last week, and I want to be outside. And
absolutely.
it's supposed to rain. The clouds are really dark and black, and my hair is going to go like this as we're in the middle of the podcast. So by the end, who knows what I'll look like. But I wanted to be outside today. I had the need to be outside.
Yeah, it looks nice out there though. Like,
I love being outside. So
yeah,
how was your week?
it's pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, I'm back at work, so I'm back at lab. I'm doing a lot more research and all that kind of stuff. My advisor did give someone else some cells that I was working on, and that's a good thing. Like, they're not part of my project. They were just something that I was upkeeping for her. So she took that off my plate, which is nice. But I'm back like full time at my like working on getting my own project off the ground. So been really busy with that. I have not been keeping up with my 500 words a day thing that I was trying to do, but I switched stories again because that's the kind of person I am. It's amazing that I've gotten any books done at all in general, just because I do this so much. But this one I had, you're gonna cringe at this. I had 48,000 words on it. So I was like, I need to work on this. I got to work on this. I can finish this one because it's like almost it's over halfway done. I cut 18,000 words off. Yeah, so I'm working on that one, but it feels a lot better now that I've cut off those 18,000 words. I found I write a lot better if I get stuck on something and I backtrack and I'm like, okay, it just doesn't feel right. I don't feel like writing on it, and this is why. So I cut off 18,000 words and started fresh from that cutoff point. So
yeah, the more we write, the better we are at doing that. We realize what's good writing and what's not good writing, and it becomes less difficult to cut.
Absolutely, because I read it up to page 44, and I write single space because it just works better for me visually. For some reason, I can think better that way. I don't know. I have really weird quirks when it comes to my writing. But I got through page 44 single space, and I could tell that was where I stopped editing it before, because I had a page break there, and then it like continued on as normal. So I could tell that I had done some editing, and it read fabulously, I think. And then after that point, it was very obviously I hadn't gone through it again. It was, I don't know. I just hated the way that it read. It didn't sound great. So I cut it all out. And
is this the story I know?
Yeah, it's my, well, it's not one that you've read, but I've talked about it for sure. My Aura series.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Book one of that.
Very nice.
So that one's going to be a lot of fun. I've started thinking about it more in depth. I think every time I finish a book, I get a lot better at seeing what I want out of books that I plan to write. Mm-hmm. So I'm visualizing how I want this one to go a lot better than I was previously when I was working on it before. So,
all right.
Yeah. So that was my week.
When do your classes start?
August 20th.
That's not too far away. Less than a month.
So what?
Less than a month.
Less than a month. And I'm taking 2 classes if I can get into one. So I'm taking neurophysiology and neural development. And neural development might go all online because right now it's full and I can't get in that class. But the professor emailed me back and said, well, we might go all online. And if we do that, you can join the class. So
okay,
I'll be doing that.
So are they thinking that UGA is going to go all digital or not?
No, okay. I don't think so. I think that course he was having logistics issues with COVID stuff, like social distancing in the room that he had and that kind of thing. So I think he requested to go full online. And so like he's waiting to hear back from the university to see if that's okay with them, which UGA is, they're trying to figure it out, and we'll see how it goes. But they want to do in-person classes. So.
Yeah, I think everybody's trying to figure it out. It is what it is, and we're all learning together.
Yeah.
You asked how my week was. It was a long week. It was my very first week back in court after, I think our last court date had been February. So all of the cases that had been continued, all of the cases that need to have court hearings, we needed to do something with. But with social distancing, it's not safe to have that many people in the courthouse at one time.
Right.
So we did 2 days of video hearings, which went extremely well. 100% of my defendants showed up, which is
nice.
Amazing. And
yeah.
did 3 days of in-person, and that was very stressful. A lot didn't show up, which was stressful because then we were just sitting there waiting.
Right.
And the ones that did show up, it was scary to have. It was just nerve-wracking. So I think what I'm going to do is go straight to all video hearings. We're going to have a half a day available for those people that really need to be in person, and that should help a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm already planning for August court date, but it was a very long week. I was exhausted.
I bet.
Stressful because I was the one that put the plan together. So if it fell apart and failed, that was all on me. So that was stressful.
It's not the answer that I thought was going to come out of your mouth for a second there.
Oh, there've been a lot of those. You should have heard me last week. There was a lot of those words going around. What are you eating and drinking?
So to be honest, I forgot we were going to podcast today. So I went to work and I was at lab for most of the day. And then I got home and I was starving because I ate early this morning, and I immediately ate a bowl of cereal because it was also very hot outside. So I needed like liquid. So I ate cereal. Honey Nut Cheerios was technically, I guess, my podcast food. But I am drinking a Bloody Mary. So
I like Bloody Marys.
Bloody Mary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't have all the like normal stuff for it that like you put into it. I don't have like the Zing Zang mix that you use or like any of that. I have V8 tomato juice, and then I have, the vodka, and then I put salt and pepper in it, and then also I'm doing pickle juice and pickle, and it's really good. So it's not like a traditional Bloody Mary, but it's delicious.
So it's a pickleback Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Neat. I'm just drinking my usual wine. I really wanted wine, but I'm eating these bacon wrapped shrimp with pepper jack cheese. So see those.
Oh my goodness.
They are amazing.
I'm jealous.
Oh, and they smell, bacon, you can never go wrong with bacon.
It sounds better than Honey Nut Cheerios.
Yeah, probably so. So I didn't.
Am I a college kid or what?
Yeah. I didn't tell everybody what our topic is.
Oh.
Our topic is my hero or main character story worthy?
Yeah.
So because of that, I have a joke.
Oh, good. Let me hear it.
It had the word worthy in it. So I was like, okay, I'll take it.
All right.
A ventriloquist is performing with his dummy on his lap. He is telling a dumb blonde joke when a young platinum-haired beauty jumps to her feet. What gives you the right to stereotype blondes that way, she demands. What does the color have to do with my worth as a human being? Flustered, the ventriloquist begins to stammer out an apology. You keep out of this, she yells. I was talking to that little jerk on your knee.
Your jokes are something else. I will just say that, something else.
Need help. I've been asking people for help and no one is sending jokes, so y'all get what you get.
I didn't say that it was a bad thing. They're something else.
So, is my hero story worthy?
Yeah, and I saw this as a question. I see it as a question all the time on Twitter. I feel like I'm scrolling through, and a lot of Twitter writing accounts ask questions and that are meant to get you thinking about the writing process or about your main characters or that kind of thing. And a lot of people are like, what happens if like your side character actually ends up becoming more interesting than your main character? And so, I thought it would be an interesting topic for us to talk about, what does make a main character story worthy? How do you know that you have the right main character? Um,
I like it.
yeah. So, we've talked about protagonists a lot. We talked about it in building characters and character development. I'm pretty sure we mentioned protagonists in the majority of our episodes that we talk about. And they're the main character of your story. They make or break a story. So how do you know if you have the right one for yours? How do you know it fits your story that you've built or the story idea that you have? And they drive a story's plot, so they're pretty important for it.
Yeah, back in the day, we used to think, well, I say we, but at least I used to think of of main characters, protagonists as being the hero. That's
Right.
what you expected when you picked up a book, was this main character is going to be the hero that solves this problem, whatever the problem is in the book. Um, almost to the point of Mary Sue, like we talked about, I think that was last week's episode where we talked about Mary Sue characters. That used to be what protagonists were envisioned to be, the superhero with the cape almost, that Mary Sue character. But I like the ones, and I think this has progressed as writing and reading has changed. We like the imperfect ones, the imperfect characters. Yeah. So think lovable rogue. That was a term I came across. Oh, it's starting to rain.
Oh, good.
I'm under the deck, so I should be okay. But like Han Solo. Everybody loves Han Solo, but this is kind of along the lines of the anti-hero. That was one of our episodes as well.
Right.
Not that knight in shining armor. I mean, Luke Skywalker was...
Oh, I can hear that rain.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
The sound. Luke Skywalker was that good boy, the perfect hero. He was what we normally think of as, or we used to think of as the protagonist.
Right.
I think Han is more lovable.
I think so too. I would also agree with that. Main character personalities and like that kind of thing, because all of them are lovable in their own way. But I think, like you said, it's not, you don't have to narrow it down to just like the heroic, Superman kind of protagonist.
I agree. Is the rain bothering you? Can you?
No, it's actually not bothering me at all.
Okay.
I guess you'll just have to see how it sounds when we're done recording.
Yeah, so. But I don't want to re-record the whole thing.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, okay. So what makes a worthy main character?
Yeah, I found a lot of good stuff as I was researching for this. And, a successful main character is, somebody that has to bear the weight of your story's plot. But what exactly does that mean? Like, how do you make a character how do you know that your character does that? So they have to have a stake in the story. So like, why is this story that you have personal to them? What drags them along for this ride that you've created? Why are they affected by your inciting incident? Like, can they walk away from it? And if they can, maybe they're not your main character. That kind of thing. Like, I think those are all really important questions to consider when you're thinking about, who is the lead of this story? They have to interact with the story's theme. So your main character should embody the themes of your story. So they can symbolize it with their character arc. If your theme is family love, then I think your main character should probably be dealing with family love in some form or fashion. They also have to have the right perspective. Like, how does their backstory apply to the main conflict? What perspective does it give them on this specific problem that you created for this story? I think backstory can play a huge role in how your main character is the focus of your current conflict. And I think we done an episode on backstory?
Only backstory as far as childhood trauma. We've done one backstory.
Right.
We're going to do a lot more about backstory because there's so many different traumas or events that can affect a character.
Absolutely. Okay, good. Another thing is like your main character should be the focus of your story. So like if a side character seems to be the one shining in a lot of the events or plot points in your story, then your side character might actually be a better main character. And that would be something worth considering as you're writing your story.
It's really hard for somebody to do. I mean, we all have our little main character in our brains when we sit down to write.
Hmm.
but you've got to be open to looking at your story not just as a parent because we love our baby, but as an author who
Right.
needs to make it the best work of art that it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely. I personally have not had a story idea that I've come up with where I have had to change the main character. I think the reason for that is I actually mostly come up with the character first.
Mm-hmm.
This person kind of walks into my head and they're like, hey, this is who I am. Let me tell you my story. And so the story kind of unfolds around them as opposed to me having a story and I have to fit a character to it.
Right.
Yeah, so your character arcs can also shape the conflict of your novel. And your main character needs to be the one to resolve that conflict. Because, like, side characters absolutely have a hand in resolving the main conflict, but I think your main character should be the focal point and really drive that resolution.
Yeah, I really think that hits home. That is a valid point. The arc is what keeps us going, not just the story arc, but that character arc. There is nothing worse than a story where the character just stays there, where nothing changes. Why do we care about the
Right.
character if we aren't watching them go through struggles and learn from all of these events that are happening? Looking back at Han Solo again, he went from totally self-centered. He's a smuggler. He cares about nobody but himself, maybe Chewbacca and,
Right.
his ship. But his arc actually, as he grows to love not just Leia, but Luke and the other members of the rebellion, his character arc grows. Now, he's not the main character.
Right.
It's arguable that Luke Skywalker is the main character, but it is also one of those stories that has so many different plot lines going that Han is kind of his own main character for his story. But yeah, his character arc, that's what made him so wonderful, is to watch this snide, self-centered, arrogant asshole, jerk, go from that to somebody who actually loves and would put his own life on the line for those people that he loves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think he's a really good example. And I was trying to think of like other ones too. Mac from the Fever series is a decent example. She goes through so much change, but all through that, she's always the one right there with the main conflict of each book. Like she's the one who's driving it. She's the one who is there with the climax and it somehow resolves what is going on with that plot in that book. I think
she actually started almost as a Mary Sue character.
Almost, yeah. I'm glad the way that Marie Moning wrote her was really well done because you start off knowing that she's not, you start off knowing that there's something wrong ahead of time. So you're already curious about like, oh, what has gone wrong in this girl's perfect world? Because it starts off with her like, I'm a bartender. I'm lounging by the pool. I live in the South. I'm just, I'm blonde and I don't have a care in the world. I'm not going to college.
Yeah, my parents take care of me, so I don't really have to worry about money. Yeah, from that to where she is now, holy cow.
It's very different. Yeah. Yeah. Also, I think another really good point about main characters in general is that they need to excite you as the author. If you're not excited about your main character, there's probably a sign that you need to switch or change them out. And that's not to say like, you're writing your story and you've probably worked on it a lot, or you have had this idea for a very long time. It's one thing to be completely bored with a character and another to have, you're writing them all the time. So what's boring to you because you know them so well, doesn't mean that they'll be boring to the reader.
Well, and Beck never bores me.
Right.
Even though I'm into book 2 with her now, and the second book in the series, and she still does things, and I'm like, Beck, are you freaking kidding me? Really? She is never boring. Even though I think I know her, she is interesting to me, and I hope she'll be interesting to my readers. And I think this is true of any writer. Your character is unpredictable. Even though you think you might know them, you never know where they're going to lead you in your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that needs to be the case. I mean, not necessarily 100%, but I think for the most part, they need to interest you completely. I've been writing Aiden for like 10 years now, just like different versions of it. Cause like
Yeah.
that was the first book that I ever wrote. And I have completely done a makeover with it. So like I'm doing a lot more, but I have been with that character for about a decade and I still love her to death. And she still cracks me up because she's the one who's very like, I hate authority. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want to do no matter what. And she's pretty much the only character that I have that is really that way. And she's still very interesting to me, and she is definitely the driver of the plot. So I think being excited about your character will show in your writing,
Right.
and I think your readers will get that through that as well.
I think so too. So how do you do this, you ask? One way to do this, I found an article, and now I don't remember who it was that wrote the article, but it was it made me think, and I really agreed with a lot of what she said. But to make your character story worthy, look at their personality for one thing. I mean, for us, a lot of them have their own personality when they appear in our head.
Right.
But, you know, Han Solo's personality, he has those witty comebacks, that snark that everybody just loves.
Right.
Beck, my character Beck, she wants to be helpful. She's funny. She's snarky. She deals with what's thrown at her with a grace, not really grace, because she's not graceful whatsoever.
She's not graceful. I think she's kind of rash. She's a bit rash.
She's rash. But she deals with everything thrown at her. And that's part of her personality. And that's part of why we love her, is that, you know, we think, oh my God, I would never do that. I would never think to do that. And she just goes out and does it.
Right.
Right or wrong, that's Beck.
Yeah.
The personality should be distinctive and unique is what I read. And that's pretty much true, because you don't want an everyday normal, well, you can have an everyday, like Beck is an everyday normal person, but the way she deals with the conflicts and the rocks that I throw at her makes her distinctive and unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that I would have survived. I probably wouldn't have survived the first day with the fairies, but Beck made it. She, you know, so that was that. It can even border on the offensive. I mean, Han Solo was sometimes very offensive. We were like, how, you know, what an arrogant asshole. I mean, really?
Yeah.
But, you know, it doesn't have to be. It just needs to not be standard necessarily. You know, Beck, I'm always, when I'm writing, she'll do something and I'm like, I can't believe she just did that. I can't believe she just said that. And that's the kind of personality that we're looking for in a story-worthy main character.
Yeah.
Contradictory natures, that is something that you can use. That's a technique that you can use to make, and not just characters, not just your hero, but these contradictory traits. Well, let me give you an example. Han Solo again. He is out for himself. He's a smuggler, but he ends up being willing to risk his life for his friends and the rebellion.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that is totally contradictory.
And I love it. And it works super well for that story.
It does. So Strider in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's out there. He's given up his throne. Well, no one even knows he's there. No one knows where he is. He's just an anonymous hunter out in the woods, being himself. He's given up his authority and his throne, but then he ends up risking his life for the humans, the elves, the dwarves.
Yeah.
And then does end up taking back his throne. That's not what he wanted. That's not where he was happy being Strider.
Right.
The choices that they make for someone they love is what makes them the hero.
Yeah.
So even if they have these hideous, you know, we talked about the anti-hero, they might have these qualities that all of us despise, but they make that choice in the end that makes them redeemable, that makes them that lovable rogue.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the character arc comes in. Like you get to see your main character grow, and they grow with the story and with the conflict that you've created in order to make them story worthy and to make them the hero.
I think so too. Readers adore a character who defies his own nature for the sake of some kind of noble cause, which brings me to the noble cause. You know, first of all, define noble, because every book is going to be their noble cause is going to be something different. So take that with a grain of salt when I say these words. You adapt it to fit to your work of art, not, you know, in general. I'm not trying to say that people should conform to any kind of standard. This is,
Oh, sure. Right.
as I just hit my microphone. I haven't even finished my first glass yet.
Goodness.
Like Han Solo was the smuggler, but he aligns himself with the rebellion.
Right.
Aragorn fights for the Fellowship, giving up his comfortable hunter anonymity.
Wow.
I said a word. Beck, she helps the fairies from being killed. She ends up helping all of these fae creatures that she didn't even know existed.
Right.
And the reader will look at that as a noble cause. That's something that the reader can connect with, as these people being, quote, good.
Yeah.
As I've said many times throughout this, I'm a big D&D fan. I think the best way to make your character story worthy is to have them be chaotic good.
I don't know that you can limit it to just that one thing, though.
I agree, because we talked about anti-heroes and how they work too. Some of those are chaotic neutral, if not even chaotic evil.
Right.
But I think the lovable rogue label would be chaotic good.
Probably so. And I think it really does come down to, what is your character, like what interests you as a character? Are you writing a character that is the lovable rogue, or are you writing a Luke Skywalker who has to, go through all these rocks that are thrown at him and like all that kind of stuff? I think it does I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I love the lovable rogue. And those are the most exciting to me. I think most of my characters could probably fit into that. Although I think Mac is pretty good. She's not.
That's true.
She's a trickster.
She see, the trickster part is a rogue.
Yeah.
She doesn't look at life where she's out to, she is a good person. She has a restaurant. She is a normal human being.
Right. She just plays tricks on the cops sometimes. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I guess you're right. Like, I think Mac probably would fall in the lines of, she's somewhere between chaotic good and neutral good, something along there.
Don't get me wrong. There is a place for the Luke Skywalkers. I mean, there is a place for the superhero. I love Marvel. And
absolutely.
DC too, but Marvel is my favorite.
Oh,
sorry
sure.
for everybody that I offended out there, but I'm more of a Marvel fan than a DC. I watch it all and I read it all, and I've read all the comic books. I used to collect them as a kid, but Marvel really strikes close to my heart, and there is a place for those. Yeah. There is a place for those characters. That makes me think of, what is that new Netflix series that we're waiting on season 2 with the
the Umbrella Academy?
Not just that one.
What? Which one are you talking about?
Superheroes that are so awful.
Oh, that's not on Netflix. That's on like Prime or something.
Oh, it might be Hulu.
Or Hulu. It's one of the other ones, but I don't remember what it's called. I know what you're talking about.
But you talk about anti-heroes.
Oh, yeah.
They're the epitome of supposed heroes with the cape and everything, but they are nasty people.
They are, and they've been like publicized, and they're like in the political eye and like all this kind of stuff, and then they're just like nasty people behind the.
That, I would love to do an episode just dissecting that show. It is so clever and so fascinating. Yeah, see my hair? It stopped raining now, so it's really humid out here, and it's just.
Oh yeah. Yay, Georgia.
Yay, Georgia. So you had some points on main characters.
Oh, I do. I think, I just came across a list of questions that would be good to ask yourself, Catson. My cat is sitting at my feet, and he's being very demanding of attention.
Well, he should come up and say hi. We want to see him.
Oh, he would hate that.
Oh, he would hate that?
He
Okay.
would hate that. He probably wouldn't let me grab him. If I get the opportunity, I'll bring him up.
Okay.
But I found a list of questions that you can ask yourself about your main character, and it'll get you thinking about like, oh, is my character is my character story worthy?
How much have you had to drink?
Not even half.
Well, I've now finished mine.
Oh, well, I need to catch up. So the first question is, who's the focal point of your story, and do they drive the plot forward? Which we talked about a little bit earlier. It's like your main character needs to be the one who's driving the plot. They need to do the conflict resolution kind of thing.
Right.
Who will be directly responsible for resolving the conflict and your plot through their unique qualities and abilities. I'm struggling to talk. Whose character? I must have made it stronger than I thought. Whose character arc is directly affected by the conflict, and will also allow them to overcome that conflict. So again, your main character just really needs to be tied up in that conflict. They need to be directly affected by it. They can't walk away from it. These things are happening to them or because of them, that kind of thing. Whose personal journey best communicates the lessons you want your audience to take away from your story? And I think this kind of ties in with the themes that you want to get across, the morals that you're trying to get across, the main idea, that kind of thing. Your main character needs to be a good fit to communicate these issues or your theme or the conflict. And most importantly, who among your cast are you most excited to write about? And I feel like this is where it comes in on Twitter, where it's like, oh, well, I've noticed that I really enjoy writing about this side character even more than I care about my main character. And maybe at that point, that side character should be your main character.
Yeah, that was my point too. There are books like Game of Thrones that have several main characters, and each one is going to be affected by the story arcs that are going on, and they're going to have their own character arcs within the story arc.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself really drawn to a side character, maybe the side character should be the main character. I mean, in my romance series with the Elementals, I started writing Hallow, and Yesmare, her sister, kept talking to me. And so I thought, oh, Yesmare needs to be the first book, not Hallow's book, because each book in the series is going to be a different main character, kind of like Kresley Cole's. Well, I hope it's like Kresley Cole's. I would love to be anywhere near compared to Kresley Cole. But that kind of thing. And so I started writing Yesmare, but I think Hallow really needs to be the first character, but you've got to be willing to experiment. Set aside what you're doing with who you think is the main character and explore, do some scenes, write from the other character, and maybe you'll find out that really is who is your main character. That's the story-worthy character. Not the side characters aren't story-worthy. They're story-worthy as well.
Right. But are they are they main character story-worthy kind of?
Right.
I think is what we're trying to get at. I've been doing the same thing with my Aura series, or I used to. I've settled on my first book at this point, but it's going to be the same way. Each book will have a different main character. And this first book, I was like, well, I want to get this character story out there at some point, but there's this side character that I absolutely adore, and I can't wait to write her story. But as I was playing around with it and I wrote some scenes for that character, I was like, no, this one really does need to be the first book. And I love her too. So like, she is also very exciting to me.
And she'll get her time. She'll have her time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think I plan her book 2 at the moment. So
yeah, I mean, and in fact, you can have fun writing her just as much as your main character by leaving the tips, the little nuggets that we're all going to follow to get to book 2, which is her story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kresley Cole is amazing at doing that. The Immortals After Dark series. Oh my Lord. All of her series I think are good, but the Immortals After Dark, and it took me forever to convince Taylor to read them because they are romance and she doesn't particularly enjoy romance, but these books, I wouldn't say that romance, I mean, romance is the high point, but the way they're written and the world that she has painted is just amazing. And now Taylor has read all of them. So
She does do an incredible job with the story. And yeah, like you said, I'm not a huge like romance fan. I like having light romance in novels. Like relationships are cool. You know, they're very important to everyday life, yada yada. But I don't personally like seek out romances to read. So yeah, it did take me a while to read those, but the background story that is going on as these romances are happening is also very, very well done and very well painted. So I hope to have at least somewhat, you know, that kind of inkling in my Ara series. So we'll see how that goes.
yeah, I'm hoping for that with my Hello series, which she's been on a back burner for a while. I got a lot of work to do with her.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I've got.
Yeah, I did have a point that I wrote down because I wanted to say it, was that, you know, what if you have multiple main characters? And I think we could do a whole other episode on that, because that's a whole other ballgame. And I have one series that has two main characters, that's Louis and Delaney. And, you know, I think you gotta have to look at it in a different way. So I think that could be a very fun episode to do.
I think so too, because the book I'm editing right now and totally rewriting because some of it is just garbage. My very first book that I ever wrote has a lot of main characters.
Yeah.
It's like Game of Thrones in that sense, in that there are different story arcs. There's a story arc, and then there's different character arcs that are going. I've got a lot of subplots going on in that, and two main plots and then a whole bunch of subplots.
Yeah.
So that could be an episode where we talk about how do you do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, like you said, each character has their own subplot going on, their own main plots going on. And how do you tie that up at the end, I think would be an interesting episode to do.
I think so too.
I do have an interview question.
Oh, okay.
Do you ever notice your day job sneaking into your writing in some way?
Yes, but not just my day job, my life sneaks in. Like Jordan will say something, and was more when she was at home. That teenage character that I like to write so much, a lot of her antics made their way into my books.
Yeah.
Even if I don't have a lawyer, which I think I only Beck's sister's a lawyer in any of my books that I can think of right now, that kind of logical thinking and problem solving makes its way in, I think. So I think, yes, my novels are all affected by my day job and my life.
Cool. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of my life gets filtered into my works. I've noticed that I tend to put my main characters closer to my age, and I didn't realize I did this until about a year ago, where I was like going back through all my stories, and I was like, all of these characters are like the age I was when I started writing them. So Mac is 26 because I wrote her now, and I'm 26, and Aiden was 20 whatever because I was working on her the most when she was that age, and like that kind of stuff, or when I was that age. Yeah, but in terms of my job going in, I work with science, and if anything, I've actually noticed that I purposefully do not put science into my books, just because like I do know a lot about science, I do know a lot about the nitty gritty, and I do not want to get into the details when I'm writing.
You could be the next Michael Crichton.
No, absolutely not.
That's like, people are like, oh, you're a lawyer and you're right, you're going to be like John Grisham. I'm like, no. That doesn't interest me. I deal with that every day. It's not interesting to me. I know some of the stuff I deal with is interesting to other people, but I like fantasy and magic, which I don't deal with every day. I want to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. And I think that like comes into, with my books, I'm like, well, it is magic, so I don't have to explain science behind it or whatever. Or I can say, oh, well, we don't, right now it's counted as magic, but we don't know the science yet, or like that kind of stuff. So I hate going into the nitty gritty of science, which is what I do in my everyday life.
Yeah.
just because I think I do it every day.
I think so. I think we write to escape sometimes. It takes us to a different world.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I read for that reason.
Yeah.
So I don't read, well, I read John Grisham. His stuff is good. But I don't like to watch movies and TV shows that are about the real world, because I deal with the real world. You know, Courtney finds these shows fascinating that are so gritty and dark and real. And I'm like, I deal with that every day. I don't want to see it on my off time. When I was in the DA's office, we had a child team where we dealt with the child abuse, and I don't want to go there on my time off. I want to enjoy something fantastical and magical and take me away from all that real stuff, because I see those real people every day. I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode. And I forgot the outro again.
How could you do that?
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you go to our website, eatdrinkwritepodcast.com, all of our social media is there. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Our email address is there. Everything is there. We have a Patreon, Patreon/EDW podcast. We also have like links to stuff that we've promised in episodes on our website. And then also, if you're a Patreon member, we're starting to put up different posts and things so that you guys have something more because we're really appreciative of your support. So,
which I meant to say, we've got 2 posts that are going to be put up for our Patreons shortly, as soon as I can get it done. I couldn't do it last week because I was in court, but we have 2, and Taylor put them together. They're beautiful. So we're going to put those up for our patrons.
Yeah, I think one of them deals with query letter writing, and one of them is, you know, how I personally kind of go about plotting my books by act. So
yeah, and the query letter writing one is kind of a formula, which you just stick in things, which is very helpful when you're trying to start off writing query letters.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be putting those up for our patrons, and thank you very much to our patrons. We appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. So thank you guys. Thank you for listening.
All right. See you all next time, and it'll be soon, because on the end of the month we have another Myth and Monsters coming. So
we do.
See you soon. All right. Bye.